COVID is popping all over the country and only the incredible Andrew Cuomo can save us now. Joe Biden's chief of staff admits that elections are rigged and some more critical race theory shenanigans. Let's get into it. Ronald Klain has been tapped to be Joe Biden's chief of staff. For those of you who don't know, Ronald Klain was Vice President Gore's chief of staff and then Vice President Biden's chief of staff for 8 years. Interestingly, in 2014, in a response to a poll that 68% of Americans believed the elections to be rigged, Mr. Klain, then Vice President Chief of Staff, now President-elect Chief of Staff, said, "That's because they are rigged." You don't believe me? That's because they are rigged. Now, I'm not the one saying it. He's the one saying it. Are they rigged? Maybe. Comment down below. So, next time someone tells you there's no way elections are rigged, you're crazy. This is just one more thing you could show them. But now, let's talk COVID. What's going on? It's a poppin'. COVID cases and hospitalizations have been spiking across the country. Are you surprised? I'm not. Why not? Let me tell you. 9 days ago, Joe Biden was declared the winner of the presidential election. What happened then? Hundreds, if not thousands of people across big cities in the United States went out to celebrate. Some people were sharing bottles of champagne on the street. Now, I'm not a medical expert, but I know one thing. Don't share bottles with people on the streets during a pandemic.
COVID is the wokest virus ever. It is the wokest virus. Okay, here we are. This one is, I believe, in New York City. Actually, it looks like Washington, D.C. This is still in Washington, D.C. People are drinking out of a champagne bottle.
It's also funny to see lefty journalists insult gatherings when they don't align with their political views. Like, for example, Aaron Rupar, who tweeted these two things 12 hours apart. One makes you happy, the other makes you upset. What's the difference? We also saw thousands of medical experts, who in reality are woke idiots with medical degrees, saying that people shouldn't use COVID, the pandemic, as an excuse to shut down the protests. You see, these medical experts think racism is a public health issue. Let me read you an excerpt from a CNN article. However, as public health advocates, we do not condemn these gatherings as risky for COVID-19 transmission. We support them as vital to the national public health and to the threatened health specifically of black people in the United States. Keep in mind, black was capitalized. White is not. Why? Why? These people are gaslighting you. Can't you realize? One gathering good, one gathering bad. Can't celebrate football, can't celebrate Biden. Can't protest lockdowns, can't protest police. Why? And here I thought you were the party of science. Seems to me like you're ignoring the science, bro. Andrew Cuomo had the worst COVID response in the nation, if not in the entire world. He keeps trying to hide the numbers of people who died in old people's homes because he's directly responsible for them. And it's, as far as we know, over 6,000, by the way. Yet, for some reason, the media think he's the best. And he thinks he's the best too. Remember the poster he made about himself on how New York got over the COVID? Seems like you're not over the COVID, huh? And the book he wrote, American Crises, Leadership Lessons from the COVID-19 Pandemic. That's ridiculous, man. How dare you?
How dare you?
And now, your state is spiking again. Because you and communist Bill de Blasio allowed protests, riots, gatherings, and Biden celebrations. Good job! Write a book about it! And now, we got the Biden team saying that they want to impose 4 to 6 week federal total shutdown lockdowns? Are you crazy? I thought you wanted to join the WHO again. Aren't you aware that they came out against lockdowns because it turns out they're more harm than good?
Really important point by Professor Gupta. I want to say it again. We in the World Health Organization do not advocate lockdowns as a primary means of control of this virus. The only time we believe a lockdown is justified is to buy you time to reorganize, regroup, rebalance your resources, protect your health workers who are exhausted. But by and large, we'd rather not do it. Just look at what's happened to the tourism industry, for example, in the Caribbean or in the Pacific, because people aren't taking their holidays. Look what's happened to smallholder farmers all over the world because their markets have got dented. Look what's happening to poverty levels. It seems that We may well have a doubling of world poverty by next year. We may well have at least a doubling of child malnutrition because children are not getting meals at school and their parents in poor families are not able to afford it. This is a terrible, ghastly global catastrophe, actually. And so we really do appeal to all world leaders. Stop using lockdown as your primary control method. Develop better systems for doing it. Work together and learn from each other. But remember, lockdowns just have one consequence that you must never, ever belittle, and that is making poor people an awful lot poorer.
And now, hey, we have a vaccine. But there's a few issues I have with the vaccine. Not with the vaccine itself, but with the company, with the CEO. You see, Pfizer waited until after the election to say that they had the vaccine. It was 90% success rate. They told the Biden team about the vaccine first before they told the Trump administration, our current president, which that in itself is messed up. Then they came out, the CEO came out in a public statement saying, we had nothing to do with the government was not involved, the vaccine was just our own making and we were not part of their operation. The problem here is that while maybe you didn't take money from the federal government, you had a guarantee from the federal government that they would buy at least 2 billion doses from you. You don't think that's incentive enough, my Greek friend? Huh. Let's talk about my favorite subject, critical race theory. Oh yeah, baby. Brain infections. If you thought critical race theory was a United States problem, then you, my friend, are wrong. It's an infection that's been plaguing all the developed and progressive nations around the world. The more progressive, the worse the infection. Exhibit A, Norway. Norway just passed on an LGBTQIABCDFG plus law. Okay? It's a hate speech law. The law reads like this. People found guilty of hate speech face a fine or up to a year in jail for private remarks and a maximum of 3 years in jail for public comments according to the penal code. Private comments are a jailable offense. Are you out of your fucking mind? For the holy mother of Mithras, does anybody else think this is as dangerous as I do? Please comment below, please. And Scotland tried passing a very similar law. But Scotland is not as progressive and woke as Norway, so they had some pushback. So the progressive legislators decided to amend the law so they would only prosecute people who had the intent to stir up hate. I would love to see you prosecute that, you incompetent buffoon. And by the way, if the Democrats win the presidency and the Senate, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw hate speech laws here. Last, let's briefly touch on the wonderfully woke squad. Marco Rubio, Florida man senator, said that the GOP should rebrand. They should rebrand as the party of the multi-ethnic, multiracial working class. And with that, I agree, especially after seeing the results of this election. People on Twitter made fun of him and said he was trying to join the squad. However, the Honorable Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez and her right-hand person who births, Ilhan Omar, rejected his application. And here I was thinking that the squad was a progressive entity that wanted to unite the country and heal. Whoops. Hate speech is amongst the most oppressive laws you could come up with. You shouldn't silence people, you debate them and prove them and their ideas to be foolish. What do you think? Comment down below. Thank you for watching, like, subscribe. Ginger out.